Today, I'm looking for the best widely available Jamaican rum to sip on neat. I'd like to answer the question, which of these rums right here should I buy if I could only buy one bottle? Now, the way it's gonna work is that I am going to run a giant head-to-head tournament. I've got 32 Jamaican rums here, so across 5 rounds, we will get to an ultimate winner. Now, when you're watching me taste these rums, I won't know what I'm drinking. It's gonna be completely blind for me, but I'll make sure to have on the screen exactly what I'm drinking so you at least know what's going on. So I gotta say, I am pretty excited for this. I have had a lot of these rums in my collection for years now. So some of them I've had a lot of, others maybe just a handful of times. And there are actually a decent amount of bottles here that I just bought for this video. So like I've never tried them before. Now, before I get into this, I should share what I generally prefer in my Jamaican rums. Usually I like a good amount of funky, overripe tropical fruit, but not something that's like a big old funk bomb. I also don't like tons of oak and wood notes kind of overshadowing the distillate. Now, all of that is what I think I like and I think what I'm looking for, but ultimately I am going to pick based on what I think just tastes good. And I'm totally also open to being surprised by this process and ending up with a rum that doesn't fall into my kind of usual preferences. Now, in terms of what I have here, these are all kind of consistently available year-round Jamaican rums. Now, most of these are core releases for their brands. Now, the thing is, given the state of rum and rum distribution here in the US, some of these are gonna be easier for you to find than others. Now, what I don't have here is anything that's like a super limited release. There's no single cast releases, no vintage releases, no like annual releases. Those kind of rums I'm actually gonna save for a future video where I do something similar. We'll call that one like the Rum Nerd Edition. But for now, we've got these rums right here that I'm really excited to dive into. Okay, so let's start with round one, and we're gonna kickstart it off with these 2 rums. That tastes sweet and slightly maybe artificial. Not as sweet as the other one, more bite to it, some texture, actual kind of like fruit flavors. I'm getting a little bit of pineapple. This one's very easy for me. I'm definitely picking this one right here. It's just far more drinkable and enjoyable than whatever the heck that is. Barrel forward, wood forward, not really getting a whole lot of funk or a lot of like overripe fruit. I'm almost getting a little bit of like chocolate here, cough medicine of some kind, cough syrup, some wood notes, a touch of banana. I think this is too dry and woody for what I'm looking for in a Jamaican rum, so I am gonna go with this one right here. Presence on the palate, good body, definitely feels higher in proof. Overripe banana note here that is really nice. Sharp edges to it as well. Whoa, molasses, bitter, burnt coffee note, less like fruit. But to me, it's pretty easy. I'm gonna go with this one here. Really love that banana note. Whoa, that is strong. Not a lot of obvious overripe fruit or anything like that. It's sharp, a little sour, industrial, some plastics and glues. This one might be one of the unaged overproof rums just from the intensity of it all. That's kind of why I'm actually doing them blind in these black glasses and the Glencairns, just so it wouldn't be obvious that I'm drinking like a clear, unaged rum, which would immediately kind of help me kind of hone in on what it is. This is definitely a little more drinkable. Not as like sharp and intense as that. And there's some age there that I'm getting. I'm getting a little more like solvent, nail polish remover, a little bit of like paint or paint thinner, faint amount of like pineapple. You know, it's funny because I don't think either one of these I'd like really go out of my way to sip on neat, but obviously I have to pick one for this exercise. I think I'm gonna go with this one here. It's got a little more roundness to it, a little more age quality there. Okay, I'm getting a lot of like raisin, a little bit of cinnamon syrup. That's really, really nice. Definitely has good presence on the palate. Pineapple there as well. Very drinkable, very tasty. What is going on there? This has a little bit of a sharper, acidic coconut suntan lotion thing. Slight medicinal and industrial note. Age quality here as well on the palate. For me, it's pretty clear and obvious which one I like to drink, and that's this one right here. Dynamic, interesting, but also comforting. So I'm gonna go with this one. A little bit of like a lotiony banana quality to it. It's not bad, but it's missing some depth. But the flavor that is there is nice enough. This one is definitely high in ABV. Definitely a sharpness, a little bit of burn here. Slightly acrid, bitter. It's not lush with fruit like that one was. Dry, it's really drying out my mouth. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of either one of these, though I think the high ABV here is a little too harsh for my palate, and because of that, I am gonna go with this one here. Bitterness, but there's also a little bit of sweetness, some burnt notes, burnt caramel, burnt coffee. Not what I was expecting from a Jamaican rum, and none of it's really coming together all too well. Drinkable, approachable, definitely leaning a little bit more on the aging side and the wood kind of flavors. There's a heart of a little bit of something kind of fruity. But yeah, I have no idea what's going on with this one here, but I like this one well enough, so that's what I'm picking. Creamy lotion-like thing going on here. I get pear and I get banana. More kind of high notes, not a lot of like lower, deeper register kind of notes. Ooh, a bit of sharpness, some amount of wood and oak medicine here. It's not as fruity as that one is, but this one has layers to it. It evolves a little bit on the palate. This, while I kind of don't mind that pear and the banana, that's all it's kind of doing. That's it. So given that, I'm gonna go with this one here. There's some dark fruit notes here. Really nice, lush mouthfeel. Decent amount of wood on here. Griminess, a little oil, really drinkable. Oh my God, this feels like it's overly sweetened, bad caramel, bad fake marshmallow. Absolutely too cloying for my taste. So this is easy. I'm definitely going with this one right here. A lot of wood, a lot of oak, a little bit of spiciness, which I kind of like. Stone fruit, like dried, maybe apricot. I like the journey on the palate. This might be unaged. There is some banana here. There's a sharpness here as well that is kind of conflicting with that banana. That makes it a bit of a challenge to drink. So given that, even though I'm not wowed by this, I am gonna go with this one right here. It's a little bold, little sharpness, strong distillate and fermentation flavors, but it's kind of wrapped up in also a good amount of aging and wood flavors. Kind of like that. Definitely banana. I think that's the most obvious note. I'm actually picking up on the aroma as well. There's also a little bit of like note of chalk. Age-wise, it's probably very lightly aged. I don't think there's necessarily any additional depth to it beyond that for the most part. In comparison to this, there's a lot more layers and depth here. So given that, I am gonna go with this one right here. This one starts like it's gonna be full-on banana, but before it kind of really fully registers, it gets cut by some sharpness. My tongue is kind of tingling, probably high in ABV, which I like so far. The other banana rums have been kind of all banana, and that's kind of it. This has a transition, a bit of a journey on the palate, which I appreciate. Yeah, my tongue is still tingling. I like that. Okay, what is going on? There's a really odd earthy or dirt kind of note here. It gets a little astringent, and in a way it kind of turns into a little bit of like Windex. Yeah, that astringent, slight Windex thing isn't really doing it for me. So given that, I'm gonna go with this one right here. Kind of woody earthiness. There is a little bit of grilled pineapple here, funky texture and bite, some decent age quality there as well. However, it kind of disappears. It's fairly thin. I think the ABV is fairly low here. So even though it is flavorful, that flavor doesn't really last and linger. Get a little big hit of chocolate caramel. I also am getting a little bit of lemon. I wish there was more body. I wish there was overall it was a bigger, bolder rum, because the flavors are kind of sort of there. This is tough because they're very similar in terms of their overall experience on the palate. The flavors are different, but what I mean is how long they last on the palate. It's kind of saying they both seem, at least to me, low in ABV. That chocolate note that's in this rum here, well, in isolation, it's fine. It's kind of transitioned into that little bit of acidity. That whole experience doesn't really quite work for me. This has a little bit more of what I like from my funkiness, and ultimately I'm gonna go with this one because of that. Kind of thin. I get this little bit of note of like damp cereal or damp grains. Bitterness here as well. I'm not super wild about this. That bitterness is a little weird. Okay, this one's higher in ABV, I can tell right away. Get a little bit of banana, a lot more lively on the palate, a little bit of industrial note here. There's a little bit of a pear quality here, and there is this kind of ever-evolving funkiness that I'm, kind of enjoying on the palate. So easy enough. I am going with this one right here. Whoa. Ooh, there's a lot going on. That's pretty intense. It's got to be very high in ABV. No fruit, just kind of a lot of medicinal and some industrial notes. I don't know if this is meant to be sipped straight. Look, right away, that's clearly gonna be the winner. That wasn't harsh, wasn't intense. Though I don't think I'm in love with it. All right, we are down to the final 2 rums of round 1. A soft banana, a little bit of floral banana, kind of like that. I'm not getting a whole lot of oak or wood or anything like that, really kind of adding like a support structure, but this really nice floral banana note with just like a little hint of a medicinal thing happening. Not bad. Feels richer than that one. This one feels like it has more age-derived flavors, a lot more oak, nice chocolate, a little caramel, a little bit of tea actually as well. Interesting. I think I kind of like both of them fairly equally, but ultimately, if I have to pick between kind of the fruity stuff or the wood stuff, I'm almost always gonna go with the fruity stuff, so that's why we're gonna go with this rum right here. All right, now we're starting off round 2 with these 2 rums right here. Not crazy, it's not bland, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. It's got pineapple, that's there for sure. Some cough medicine to give it a little bit of dimension and texture to it. A little sweeter, maybe a bit more caramel and chocolate that's present here than that one right there. The fruit is a little muddied, but I'm gonna go with this one right here. It's a little drier, has a little more pronounced fruit on it, so that's what we're doing. Some fruit, wood aging there. Really like the kind of mushy banana note that I'm getting on the back end here. And overall, a very enjoyable, drinkable rum. This is sharper for sure compared to that. Definitely has a little pop of like industrial sharpness and a little bit of acidity. On the back end, there's also a little bit of cough syrup, which I don't mind, but the fruit is definitely less pronounced than here, so I am gonna go with this one right here. Nice little bit of cinnamon raisin thing going on. Underneath that though, there is some pineapple, a little bit of slight industrial note, a little medical note. A bit of a mushy, almost like shampoo-y kind of banana note there. Thin overall, especially compared to that. And it's pretty easy for me, and I'm gonna go with this one right here. Orange peel, citrus peel, a little bit of baking spice, definitely oak forward, a little thin. Budding amount of medicine, a little bit of sharpness. I wouldn't call it acidity, but it's kind of building up to that a little bit. But to me, this is the one I probably enjoy a little more. Just, it's more drinkable. This feels like it's lacking one little thing. If it had a little touch of extra fruitiness or something like that, it doesn't. So that's why I'm picking this one right here. A little bit of lushness on the palate. There's baking spice, there's a little pineapple, a touch of like a savory quality, but there's also a little bit of griminess that I'm kind of digging. Not a whole lot of fruit compared to here. This one's a little too dry and woody for my taste, and there's not a whole lot of other stuff going on. So because of that, I'm gonna go with this one here. Just a lot more layers, a lot more interesting flavors, really nice body. Dried fruit, dark fruit, funky kind of medicine kind of note, but not strong. There seems to be like a decent amount of age on there too, really well integrated. There's a burgeoning banana thing here, but never gets overwhelming, which I like, I appreciate that. There's even a little bit of a vegetal note, a little bit of heat to it on the palate. That's actually pretty tasty. I enjoy it. This is tough. I actually like both of these, maybe about the same amount. But I think with this one, I would like to have in a cocktail, and this one I'd like to sip on neat. So given that, I am picking this one right here. Flavors kind of quickly come, but also quickly go. Light finish, it's probably a low ABV rum. There's a savory quality here, which is interesting, almost like a meatiness. Touch of like cough medicine here as well. A bit of fruitiness, not bad. I just wish there was more of all those flavors. The taste kind of progresses across the palate, where this was kind of not doing a whole lot of anything. There's a intensity here that I'm kind of enjoying. There is some banana that kind of stretches across the experience. A light pineapple here. There's not a whole lot going on over here. While I do enjoy the flavors, there's just not enough there to kind of keep me occupied. This not only has the flavors, but it has more impact. Lasts the entire way. Has an actual finish that I'm kind of enjoying right now. So super easy. I'm gonna go with this one right here. Okay, we are here at the final 2 rums of round 2. Ooh, I'm picking up a little bit of mintiness. A little bit of menthol actually as well. It's not a big, bold rum. This is fruity, floral, little bit of pear, touch of banana. Not maybe a whole lot of age on this one. I don't think I'm wowed by either of these 2 rums. I think they're both decent, but like I'm not in love with either one of them. And they're both fairly light. That being said, I think I'm kind of intrigued by that minty menthol thing that's happening here. So we're gonna go with this one right here. So we're now in the quarterfinals and I've narrowed it down to 8 rums. And we're gonna start off with these 2. Coffee caramel, slightly kind of cough medicine thing going on here. Seems low in ABV. I'm surprised this made it as far as it did because now it just feels like it's kind of on the sweeter side. Feels like it's really lacking complexity. Not tons of fruit, no real funk. Yeah, I'm a little surprised it made it to quarterfinals, but here we are. This is a lot more livelier, sharper. There's a little bit of like intensity going on here. So this feels like it's higher in ABV, but there is still a core of some fruit, like a little bit of light banana here and pear that I'm really liking. So actually this is fairly easy. I'm gonna go with this one right here. Oh wow, yeah, that's really nice. Ooh, a lot of dried fruit, a little raisin going on over here. Ooh, nice little baking spice finish. Ooh, I got like a big hit of coconut there. Definitely maybe more age driven, but there is a little bit of like fig going on, a little bit of tobacco, dry, tannic. I mean, frankly, you could tell me this was a Barbados rum and I'd believe you. There's nothing here that screams Jamaican. And while this one has fruit notes, maybe they're not traditional Jamaican fruit notes, but there's still kind of some fruity elements here that, I don't know, I really, really like. So for me, it's pretty easy. I'm gonna go with this one right here. Ooh, decent amount of oak actually on the palate. Dried fruits, some baking spices, not like big, bold tropical fruits. There's some tea here, maybe a little bit of tobacco. Ooh, kind of drying out my mouth a little bit. My tongue is tingling. Acidity here, maybe even a little bit of like minerality. There is a little bit of oak and a little bit of fruit. Look, I think a lot of people who are really into Jamaican rums will probably really enjoy this. It's got boldness, a lot of funk, a lot of acidity and all that, and high ABV, but it's a bit of a challenge for me. This is kind of flavorful enough, very approachable and very drinkable, but it doesn't have that big, bold character, that kind of sharper funk that maybe folks might be looking for in their Jamaican rums. But for me, honestly, I'd much rather sip this. It's just more enjoyable for me, kind of as an experience to kind of sit and sip on. So we're going with this one right here. Ooh, I get like a banana pear puree thing going on here. Maybe a slightly elevated ABV, but not like really high in ABV. Good enough presence on the palate. That's quite enjoyable. A pretty good finish actually too. Some dried fruit, lighter on the palate, lower in ABV than that one right there. Mostly wood and oak forward flavors. Slightly bitter tea thing happening here, kind of like a muddy water tea thing, which I'm not like super in love with actually. This feels relatively kind of weak in comparison to this. It's a little thinner, mostly kind of wood notes. Here I get a lot of fruit, some sharpness, a little bit of funk, and you know, maybe there's not a ton of age maybe, but what age there is, I feels like is well kind of balanced with the fruit. So easy, I'm gonna go with this one right here. All right, so we are down to the final 4 rums. This is the semifinals, and we're gonna see how these two compare. Some pear, some banana. There's definitely like a chemical kind of thing going on as well. Like a funky chemical, kind of almost like a Windex kind of thing going on. Almost a little bit of a cinnamon thing going on here. Stewed down berries like a raspberry or a strawberry, which is Really nice. Yeah, honestly, this is actually pretty easy. I'm definitely gonna go with this one right here. I get some oak. There's a nice baking spice note here. It's not cinnamon, it's not nutmeg, but it's something that I'm really enjoying. It is that kind of little drying out my palate a little bit. Not like a lot of very obvious fruit here. Lower in ABV probably, but enjoyable. I'm kind of digging it. Feels more kind of distillate driven, more kind of fruity and also funky, and less all about like the age. I actually like both of these rums. They are different kind of rums. This feels light, thin, oak forward, not bad. I enjoyed it. Obviously, it's gotten this far, but this one is just far more exciting, more engaging. Really enjoying the fruit flavors that are here, that pear banana thing. Love the little pop of acidity. Like the kind of light baking spice notes that are here as well. This feels like the more complete package, so that's what we're gonna go with. All right, so we are in the final round. These are the final 2 rums. I have no idea what they are. What you'll see here are some post-it notes that my wife put together. They have the number of the rums on top, and underneath it, she wrote the actual identity of those rums. So at the end, I'll flip them and reveal to myself. You obviously know exactly what I'm drinking. And I gotta say, throughout this whole experience, I really don't think I've had really any idea what I was drinking. Maybe some like rough thoughts, but I don't think at any time throughout this process was I able to immediately pinpoint what I was drinking. Woo! It was a very lively rum, a little acidic. This is gonna be very tough. There's a little bit of acidity here that cuts through the fruit. Both of them have kind of clear and obvious fermentation flavors, fruity, funky flavors that are kind of upfront. Fruit, but they are kind of different kinds of fruit. And I like that they have presence on the palate. They have a nice finish, an obvious finish that kind of stays with you. I think ABV wise, they're probably kind of similar, maybe around 50, a little under, a little over. Okay, so I think I've decided between these two, which one I would pick as my favorite of, not just between these two, but my favorite of the 32 different Jamaican rums that I've tried in this whole thing. And ultimately, I am gonna pick this one right here. It's not so dense and intense that it kind of overwhelms your palate. Like, this feels like a very drinkable, maybe high-ish ABV rum that I could sit with and either really kind of sit with and think about the flavors and kind of examine it, or just kind of enjoy it for what it is and let it kind of wash over me. Love that it kind of feels like it does both of those things. So now that I've selected my first place and my second place rum, it's time to reveal what they are. To me, you obviously already know. I'm kind of really excited, but also very, very nervous. Let's start off with second place. What? Oh, funk? Okay. The funk. This is an unaged pot still rum. It's 50% ABV. It's not 63. It is Worthy Park distillate, which kind of makes sense because I was picking up that kind of banana pear thing that I get with a lot of Worthy Park rum. I've always said I'm a huge fan of unaged rums, and for it to actually make it to the top 2, I guess technically the first one could be an unaged as well. We'll see, but I'm kind of really stoked that an unaged rum is, number 2. Frankly, I could have sworn it had some amount of age on it, even though it was so kind of fruity and fermentation forward. I felt like there were some baking spices and a little bit of body and lushness that I assumed it came from the aging, but no, it's just really awesome Worthy Park distillate. That's so cool. Let's reveal my winner, the rum that I like sipping neat more than any other of these 32, and it is, of course it is, yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. Hampden Pagos, well, you already know, it's so damn obvious now that this is Hampden Pagos. I can't believe I didn't pick that up right away, or at least at any point during this process. This is a 52% ABV Jamaican rum from Hampden Estate. This has been aged entirely in ex-sherry casks, and my understanding is only kind of like a handful of years, maybe, I don't know, 2 to 3 or 4 years, maybe at most. I think it has such a great balance between the kind of raw distillate and then the flavors of the sherry cask, and honestly, it's so well integrated. It does not feel like a sherry kind of aged rum. It kind of comes together. That sherry aging, the beautiful distillate comes together and creates this second or third thing, really, this kind of separate thing that doesn't feel like it's just a sherry aged rum. It to me is not a sherry bomb, though your mileage may vary. A lovely, lovely rum, and I'm so stoked that this is the first place. Because one, it's not an embarrassing pick, frankly, but two, it's a rum that I legitimately love. Although I guess I would have been open to being shocked and surprised, I guess. Now, I'm curious, as you've been watching this video, was there a decision that I made that you absolutely disagree with? Was there a rum that I picked that you think I should not have picked and I should have picked the other one? Let me know by leaving a comment down below. Now, if you want to further support this channel, then check out my Patreon page where I have a bunch of exclusive content. And if you sign up for one of the tiers, then you get access to the Rum Revival Discord server where you get to chat with other rum lovers about rum. It's a really awesome community. And that's this video. Thanks so much for watching. Catch y'all next time. Cheers.